Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Flamin Hot. Show the world what a janitor can do. Every person can be the difference between failure and success. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Flamin Hot. Special thanks, as always, to our friends at Searchlight Pictures and Disney Studios Canada for letting us watch this movie early for review. My name is Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Now, joining me for this extra spicy review, we have Justin, the jalapeno pepper-licking Lawrence. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Let me tell you, I like my chocolate bars thick, my Pepsi Cola cold,
Okay.
and my Cheetos flamin', bro.
Flamin'
'Cause
hot.
I am all over this movie. This was
Really?
a great time. I loved it.
Fantastic. I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed it. Before we get into the review, are you a spicy food person? Do you like spicy foods?
Well, I grew up in a East Indian, West Indian cultured house, so
right.
spicy was something. As I've gotten older, spicy doesn't always agree with me.
Okay.
A little bit of that heartburn, a little bit of that, acid reflex, if you will.
Yeah, you feel it.
So I gotta like, temp it down a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I think for myself, like I dig spicy foods. Like I would take a Flamin' Hot Cheeto over a regular Cheeto any day,
Sure,
every day.
yeah, I agree, yeah.
But this movie touches upon an aspect of spice where there's good spice and there's bad spice. And I think good spice is if it's enhancing the meal, if it's making what I'm about to eat more enjoyable in some way or dynamic, then absolutely spice it up. Let's be spice lords together. If it gets to a point where I take a bite and I can't taste anything else after that, then I don't fully understand that aspect of that sort of gymnastic level of spice. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you a fun little story here. I once went out with my dad and his friends to this like driving range lounge place, and they had these great chicken wings because one of his friends had been there before. He's like, "Oh, let's get the suicide wings." And I'm like, "Okay, this seems spicy." So we get them, and they're delicious. We really enjoyed them. And so my dad's friend, he said, "Let's order another round." And then when the waiter comes by, he says, "Tell the chef that wasn't that spicy." So this cook in the back must have been like, "Oh, it wasn't spicy enough for you?"
It's on.
Oh, it's on, because the second batch, like literally, you pick up a chicken wing, you hold it up to your mouth, like it's not even in your mouth, just breathing in the fumes of the
You're
spice.
starting to cough. Yeah.
You're starting to cough. So I ate one of these wings, and I literally like the kid in this movie, I was begging for a pitcher of water, and I literally chugged this pitcher of water. I'm like 13, 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is because of you. This is because of you. I told my dad's friend, this is because of you that we are in this pain. He was dying. His eyes were so red. He's like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said anything. It's
and
like,
you were on? Were you on the golf course? Like
no, we were in a driving
down?
range, like sitting down.
Okay.
Like they had like
But
a
was
nice
it hot
sitting
out?
area.
Like that wouldn't be comfortable.
No, it was like fall, so it was okay. But like you're absolutely
okay.
right. Like eating spicy in hot temperature,
No.
not really good. But
Nah.
fun fact, in India, they drink hot soups during the hottest days because it kind of works on cooling the inside. It's a way to deal with the heat. That's what my dad used to always tell me, right?
I dig it.
A good mulligatawny soup like that my dad used to make. So some fun facts about spicy food, and
There you go.
Kevin loves spicy food, and
Oh, yeah?
to his detriment at times. He would eat a spicy thing, and then he would chug like a liter of chocolate milk at
And
the
leave
same
a lake,
time.
leave a new lake in Canada behind him somewhere, just full of sweat. No, I think I recently had this mango drink when I was in the UK.
It's
with
a
spicy
mango
food
lassi.
in India.
Yeah,
dude,
mango lassi.
so good
because it's
I'm
yogurt.
like, this is perfect.
Yeah,
yes.
so milk is the thing
answer?
that you want to use. Anything with a milk base
Okay.
is what you want to use to combat spicy food. So
Okay.
people say water, people say bread, people say rice even. Rice I've had some effects, but it is like the milkshakes, the yogurt based drinks.
Yeah.
It's called a mango lassi.
mango lassi, I think is what it said on the menu.
Yeah. And they're delicious. They're so good, especially if you get them made fresh. There was a place that when I went to university that was an Indian restaurant, small hole in the wall.
Those are the best places.
And it had great Indian food and great mango lassis. They were so delicious. They were absolutely delicious.
Yeah, usually those small holes in the wall, family-run businesses, and family, I think is a core aspect of this movie as well. But before we get to today's review, just really quick, of course, we are the Geekcentric podcast, so I've got a few announcements here. We've got a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, including our recent spoiler-free reviews for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We also have our spoiler-filled review for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We have our spoiler-free review for Transformers Rise of the Beasts out now. American Born Chinese Season 1, our spoiler-free review is up as well as Disney's The Little Mermaid, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Fast 10. And we are stoked to announce and continue to announce that to celebrate the summer of movies and all the geeky conversations we love having about movies, TV shows, games, we have opened up our Discord, and we've got spaces not only to discuss spoilers with us about, movies and TV shows that we talk about on the podcast, but also spaces for the latest news and trailers from around the Geekiverse. Justin dropped some really cool news that, if you haven't seen it yet, about some of the production of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in our Spider-Verse spoilers channel. You got to check it out because it's really, really heartwarming. And we've also got a spot for questions that we might feature on the podcast. We've got a Whatcha channel for you to tell us what you've been watching, listening to, reading, or playing, and so much more. So check out the link in our show notes to join. We can't wait to hear from you because we are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Join us, celebrate the things we love together. On to this review and the synopsis for this movie. Flamin' Hot is the inspiring true story of Richard Montanez, played by Jesse Garcia, who, as a Frito-Lay janitor, disrupted the food industry by channeling his Mexican-American heritage to turn Flamin' Hot Cheetos from a snack into an iconic global pop culture phenomenon. The movie stars Jesse Garcia, Annie Gonzalez, Emilio Rivera, Dennis Haysbert, Bryce Gonzalez, and Emmy Award winner Tony Shalhoub. It's directed in what I believe, I tried looking it up, is her first feature film directorial debut. She did do a feature
she's done a couple TV.
Yeah, she's done TV episodes, but by Eva Longoria directed this movie, and it releases on Disney Plus June 9th, which is tomorrow, if you're listening to this on the day that we've posted it. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Justin, why don't you kick us off? I'd love to hear your sort of first thoughts on Flamin' Hot.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I think it's inspiring. It's heartfelt. It shows the power of, I guess, the American dream to a certain degree. Believing in yourself, going the distance, that determination, striving for success against all odds. I think that this is a really uplifting story told about someone who obviously had to go through the hurdles of representation and culture at a time that I think a lot of people judged him based on his color and his representation, and I think that those stories, especially now, are not more relevant, but they're just more impactful, because I think in a lot of ways we get to see what people have overcome to get to the sort of success or status. It's an underdog story, and you'll always root for the underdog, and I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie is rooting for Richard and his family to seek this success and get above that bar that everyone seems to be putting them at. It makes it relevant. It makes it poignant for right now.
Yeah, I think this. I think the best part of this movie, for me at least, and I think the part that I think the person that carried this movie was Jesse Garcia as Richard Montanez. I think he's so likable, he's so charming, he's so funny, and I think Jesse does such a good job at playing that role, like you were saying, of someone you just want to root for. And there were a few moments in this movie that incited like a hell yeah from me. And I don't I don't think that was purely on the writing. I think Jesse's performance just made me really want to see this guy succeed, break out of his gangster lifestyle. He was definitely like, for me, I think he was the best part of the movie.
For sure. I totally agree. I think he definitely carried the movie. I think his portrayal captures the essence of the character and the struggles that he faced along the way. You know, you mentioned the gangster lifestyle. I like that in the movie. It calls out the fact that, you know, when he was a young boy, he was accused of stealing, and that's sort of what pushed him into this sort of criminal life. It was someone who told him that he was a criminal when he wasn't. And that's very much the story that I think a lot of people have gone through in the States based on systemic racism. You can't have nice things. You couldn't have been this person with X amount of money in your pocket and be brown or black or Asian or any of the ethnicities that isn't white. I think it's very poignant in the moments in the opening here where he calls out the fact that, you know, he didn't choose that life chose him, sort of thing, right? Like it's sort of something that he was thrusted upon him, and he had to make ends meet. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the sad reality of why people would resort to these jobs. In a lot of ways, I think the system has pushed them in that direction. And in those early moments, it really does shine a light on what Richard is fighting for and why his story is so important. It's an underdog story to come from what everyone thinks that he should be and becoming something more. Because even he thinks that he should be what everyone else thinks he is. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense, right?
Sure, yeah. And I think the movie does an okay job of representing those moments and the darker moments in his life. I don't think it, for me, it didn't nail those instances, because it very much feels like, you know, it's a feel good movie. It knows it's a feel good movie, and I feel like at times that sort of scares the you know, maybe it scared some of the writers from saying, well, we can't go too dark. Let's we're gonna show that, but we're gonna get out of it as fast as possible. And so for me, I did find that a lot of those moments where I was like, okay, this is getting pretty heavy, it did, but then it just sort of really quickly got out of it back to that happy funness.
Right. I agree. I think it couldn't steer too far into the darkness and the seriousness of it. Like you said, this is a feel-good story, an underdog story. It needs to stay light. But I liked how humor was interjected in moments to give levity and more poignancy to moments. I think it's done in a way that is familiar to what we know. Like, sometimes when he was describing or narrating specific moments, it felt like Lewis from Ant-Man, where, you know, he's speaking and the moments are being acted by someone else. And I get it, like it's already something that's been done. But I think that the humor in a lot of ways is a tool to, you know, take itself seriously while also not taking itself seriously, if that makes sense. Like to draw a relevancy around the sort of the seriousness of the situation, but maybe to your point, they didn't hang with that seriousness. It's like they got there and then they immediately flip it back to this, you know, lighthearted humor, feel good movie. Yeah. And you just don't have those moments that will emotionally resonate with you, like I'm sure you're used to, right?
Right. And that is the thing with biopic, right? I feel like the more we skew towards made for TV, the more feel good it has to be. Unfortunately, and I think that is the case with this movie, because I think, as we were saying earlier, like Jesse Garcia in those moments, in those dark moments, like really like acts the crap out of them. I also want to give a shout out to Annie Gonzalez as Judy.
She was great.
She was great. She's the Rock of this movie. She's the Rock of his life, if you will. Not Dwayne the Rock, but like an actual rock. She was so sturdy. I enjoyed how her character was written, because, you know, she's not just the wife or the mom that was sort of there in the background of Richard's story. Like, she is the
motivation.
She's the one who shapes him into the man that he becomes.
Sure.
And I thought they did a really great job with her character as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, running parallel with Jesse Garcia's fantastic portrayal of Richard Montaner, I think Annie Gonzalez as Judy is right up there. Like you said, she's the Rock, and she's the inspiration. She's the motivation. You know, she reminds me at times of my own wife. who believes in me and pushes me and wants me to do what we can do with Geekcentric, right? Like
Right.
it wants us to be that motivator and that support. And as Richard said, everyone needs a Judy. And I think that this is just that, the representation. As much as this is a story about Richard and his journey, this is a story about about Judy and her journey along the way and what she had to overcome and what she had to deal with as well, and how she and Richard were in this together. And I think that's great. Like you said, she's not just a mom or a housewife who's just ragging on Richard. You got to make money. You got to do this. She's in there. She's involved. She's motivated. And I think that Annie Gonzalez embraces that. She has fun with it. And I loved their dynamic with one another. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think the only other member of the cast that I think really did stand out for me was Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah.
I think he's, the only thing I will say though is he's Dennis Haysbert. Like if you're expecting Dennis Haysbert, you're going to get Dennis Haysbert. He's kind of a character in his own, and I mean that voice. It's so distracting to hear Allstate Insurance guy throughout the entirety or a lot of this movie. But I thought his chemistry with Jesse Garcia was really good, and I think their relationship was great. I think I would have almost liked a little bit more of it if I was being picky, but if I was being greedy.
I think they kept a reasonable amount of it in the movie to help show what Richard is striving for, but also at the same time highlighting how Clarence is kind of like he's achieved a lot being black and in an industry that I think as they highlighted is predominantly white corporate guys.
Every other person beside him is
white. Right.
Yeah,
and then all the people that worked on the floor were either Hispanic or of other ethnicity. So you clearly see the sort of cultural representation here. And I think, again, Clarence's character kind of highlights striving for it. So it was an inspiration for Richard, but also I think in some ways what he wasn't able to do. Do you know what I mean? Like what he wasn't able to achieve, because then he started getting behind Richard and pushing him and, being his cheerleader just as much as Judy was. Clarence was also Richard's cheerleader, which is really great to see.
Yeah, no. And I think that's, again, those two relationships were the standouts. Now, despite the allegations that the source material for this movie isn't exactly true, I will say the authenticity in this movie shines with the Mexican-American culture and representation.
Yes. Yeah,
and you can tell that there was so much love put into the authentic portrayal of those communities, especially throughout the Reagan era and into the early 90s. And I mean, with someone like Eva Longoria behind this and the team that was behind this, you can just tell that it was absolutely lovingly made for those communities and by those communities. And it's kind of in a meta way that's a really lovely sort of sentiment, because that's also the story of Flamin' Hot, right? Is made for by.
Yes, exactly.
And I thought they did a really good job of kind of kind of incorporating that into every aspect of the film.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the thing that again, we've been talking about it's representation. I think that is the film's strength. It lies in an ability to shed light on the challenges faced by individuals from marginalized communities and the importance of representation in the corporate world, as we were talking about with Clarence's character, as well as Richard's character, and seeing the white corporate system, if you will. I think it raises awareness about the need for diversity and inclusivity, emphasizing the value of different perspectives. Like you said, like what's so great is that they believe in Richard because of the perspective he can add and bring, reaching out to the Hispanic community. And I think that emphasizes the value for different perspectives and different experiences. It also delves into the realities of systemic racism at times, like we were mentioning before, mostly from the past. But with today's mindset, we do see things differently. We do kind of notice the error of the ways. And again, I go back to that early story of him as a kid and then how that changed his trajectory. You know, he was just a happy kid who did his thing, and then suddenly he was accused of being a criminal, and that changed his course. And I think that, again, that's a story that a lot of people and stories that we have seen unfold in different ethnicities across the United States just captured. And again, it just brings to light the systemic issues within, you know, races and cultures in the United States and just how they're perceived. It's you know, hopefully something like this can be both an inspiration and an awareness, right? Is what you would want it to be. But like you said, maybe the seriousness of it, the lack of seriousness around it, sometimes by it not necessarily taking itself seriously all the time and having that humor may detract from that. But I don't know. I think that the humor worked. I think the humor in a lot of ways helps to kind of give it a sense of levity instead of going to a dark place with it all the time.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that it needs to just be dark, because again, I think part of Richard's charm is his humor and his wit, right? And I think that's part of how he became who he becomes throughout the movie. But I guess for me, it's like, yes, the representation, absolutely, like more of that, please. We need to champion that in these movies for these different cultures. But every other aspect about this biopic I've seen. It felt very predictable. It felt very much like just a lot of the stuff that I've already seen. And then even when it did come to the humor, I think the funniest parts in this movie are when he does the Louis from the Ant-Man style, you know, narration of using the you know, Mexican slang, if you will, like dubbed language, over, you know, the language dubbed over these white corporate guys
who are acting flawlessly,
absolutely,
like to his words, which were awesome.
Phenomenal. Yeah, but again, as much as I got a chuckle out of it, it just kept reminding me of comedy that I had already seen.
Right,
and for me, that's the only thing that I will say is, like, throughout the movie, I felt like it was just kind of going through its paces at a lot of the time.
I guess, yeah.
And it just kind of, I just kept sort of getting reminded of stuff that I'd seen before. And so for me, that did kind of take me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with you. There were things that happened throughout, and again, it is a biopic. It does kind of maybe have a bit of a formulaic process to it that feels familiar to other biopics.
Yeah.
But that said, you know, in my opinion, that isn't something that took me out. It's only something that reminded me that we are seeing a different story told with those tropes, with those elements at place. Where this movie does have flaws, in my opinion, is its pacing. It feels uneven at times, and in certain moments feeling sort of rushed, while other things could have been explored further.
Right.
I think the screenplay, you know, though engaging, again, it lacks depths in certain areas, leaving some characters underdeveloped and relationships not fully explored and sort of rushed again.
Yeah, the darker stuff, like right, the darker moments in his life, they dip in and then they dip out, and then right. I think that was the other part for it too, where it's like the rest of it, where it's like, I guess it's like it doesn't feel like enough of a you know, it feels too much like a straight line, if you will, where I'm just kind of I didn't feel the impacts enough to that point where when we got to the happy stuff, like I didn't feel that.
No,
rise.
I agree.
Does
I
that
think
make sense?
No, I think the way I see it in what you're talking about is that they'll give us a heavy weighted moment between him and his father, but then it's just like gone. Right. You know what I mean? Like you just move on to the next thing
for so long, and it gets messy, it gets blended together. Like it feels like a lot of it sort of feels like the same.
Yeah, but it also just you don't have that time to live with that, to experience it.
Yeah.
So I think that in itself is part of it. I maybe what we're kind of getting at here is that the tone should have either stayed one or the other. You know, go full comedy or go full seriousness with it, right? I think having the toe in either or kind of creates an imbalance in the vibe that it's going for, because I don't know, at the end of the day though, this is a good movie. It's enjoyable. It's better than other movies that I think have tried to tackle other very relevant issues, sometimes to the detriment of too heavy in the comedy or too heavy in the seriousness.
Yeah, I think this is similar to Tetris for me in a lot of ways, where it was kind of like, okay, well, what does the movie want to be? There's moments where it dabbles with style, like it tries to do something unique, where like there's like a sequence where they're showing the years passing by with like putting the year on things throughout the factory,
as it does
like
as a 360.
Yeah, it's like a 360 turn, and the camera does some unique stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, but like, where was that style throughout the movie? Right? Again,
but again, you don't. I'm glad that they didn't heavy-hand it like Tetris, where it was like, let's throw as much video game style at this so that it feels that it feels like it's a video game movie. Here at least they implemented style in a way that at least made sense for specific moments. Like, I didn't mind that. It was a way for them to kind of reveal, rotate, and have time pass, and to see sort of a change in the character as well, right? Over that time frame. So, again, I think the style, like you said, like maybe there wasn't enough flavor. Maybe it needed a little. Maybe it was a little bland for you.
It's spicier.
Yeah, exactly. For something that's about Flamin' Hot, it wasn't spicy enough for you. So,
Justin, let's get to our final thoughts and overall score for this movie, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 hot Cheetos.
Well, as I was mentioning, I enjoyed this movie. I think it was inspiring. It's heartfelt. It showcases the power of determination and the potential of success against all odds. I think it effectively highlights the importance of culture, representation, while telling an engaging story filled with heart, humor, and charm. Again, we were mentioning Eva Longoria. She has directed stuff in the past, but this feels like a very, sort of directorial debut in the film space. And I think she found a way to balance humor and heart while still delivering an inspiring story that doesn't take itself too seriously all the time. I think the humor adds a sense of levity and awareness to otherwise serious scenarios. And sometimes at its own detriment. Like, while this movie does have flaws, I believe it's still enjoyable. And I think it's for those who are seeking a dose of inspiration and a glimpse into the journey behind, which is questionable, behind this beloved snack. But
not according to the LA
even
Times,
if you don't, if you don't want to necessarily think of that, Richard Montanet is a real person.
Yes.
So this is an inspirational glimpse into the journey in life of Richard Montanet and what he had to overcome. And I think that if you stripped out this fact that this is about Flamin' Hot and stuff, that in itself is a really, really enjoyable story to watch. So I'm going to be giving this one 3.5 out of 5 Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Oh, Flamin' Hot.
Hot.
That makes more sense, I guess. Yes. Hot Cheetos is like the non-name brand.
Yeah.
This movie's not bad by any stretch. I think it was good. I think it's a safe, feel-good movie that does a phenomenal job representing the struggles of Mexican American culture in the Reagan era throughout the 90s, and it seems authentic. I think Eva Longoria does a decent job at giving us a movie that, well, at times dips its toes into darker parts of the story, doesn't fully commit to them, and it opts for a lighter take on what I think is a pretty conventional biopic from a narrative structure standpoint. So I'm going to give Flamin' Hot a very fine 3 out of 5 Flamin' Hot Cheetos. I think it could have been a bit spicier. I think it's a fun watch. I think the cast looks like they had a great time making this movie, but it just didn't do enough sort of original stuff for me to fully recommend it. But that is it for this review of Flamin' Hot. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this movie or any of the movies or shows we cover, let me just wipe my Cheeto fingers all over Justin so he can let you know how you can reach us.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. And if that's too spicy for you,
or not spicy enough.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess maybe that's it. Maybe it's not spicy enough for you. Well, you can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at WeAreGeekcentric.
Justin, I feel like somebody wiping their Cheeto fingers on you would be like your nightmare.
It is. That's why for forever now, every time I eat Cheetos, I use chopsticks.
Chopsticks.
Just like She-Hulk.
It's the way to go. She knows what's up. Keep in mind, beyond the reviews that I mentioned earlier, we also have a ton of interviews out now, like our most recent interview with Sophie Thatcher from The Boogeyman, as well as our interviews with Chakudi Awuji and Sean Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You can catch those interviews here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And please make sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all the hot stuff we got coming at you. This hot summer continues. It's a hot geek summer, and we've got so much more to look forward to, including our coverage of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Secret Invasion is coming up, and of course Pixar's Elemental, and so much more. And speaking of Elemental, just one last thing. We do have a giveaway happening over on our socials. It is still open. We've partnered with our friends at Disney Studios Canada to give away some tickets for you and a friend to see Disney and Pixar's Elemental early on June 14th. We're going to be giving tickets out to screenings across Canada, so go check out those socials for full details. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this hot review. And as we say, love ya.
Peace.